what this group is going to talk about, it's all issues with appropriateness in architecture and urbanism. But what this group is talking about is the materiality side. In other words, what materials should we be using, can we be using within the urbanism, and also what should we not be using. And years ago, at the very beginning, only natural materials could be used, only wood siding, for example. And so that was the case for a very long time. In 1996, I was serving as town architect at a place called Blunt Springs. It was a DPZ project, and we've been using a lot of hardy plank in our work in North Alabama. And so I called up Liz. I never met her, but called her up and kind of explained what we wanted to do. And she said, well, we've never done that before, but let's give it a try and see how it works out. And if so, we might adopt that in some of our other places as well. And of course, we know what's happened with that since then. In more recent times, I believe it's about 10 years ago, that the Vinyl Siding Institute started sending representatives to the CNU, and they have a booth, and I'd go and beat them up, every year. And then in Dallas, I found Andres beating them up as well. I said, what, you're doing that too? He said, yeah, you're doing that too. I said, yeah. So anyway, we didn't know that we each had been after. Our whole point with them is like, look, vinyl itself is not a bad product. People love vinyl records, for example. There's other, the dashboard on your BMW that's made out of vinyl. You probably love that as well. But I said the problem with vinyl siding is the fact that it is a bad fake because of the fact that, primarily because of the J channels, where you can see the shadow where it runs behind the J channel. You can see from 100 yards away that that's not the real thing. And then you push on it, it pushes in. Sometimes if you hit it, it'll rattle on the wall. And so things like this that mean that it is it's a bad fake. That's why we don't like it. If you could fix those things, then it actually would be something that we would be very interested in doing. And actually some of the polymer trims, for example, when 150 years ago, when they first industrialized wood trim, they squished the profiles down to where they could get everything out of a 3/4 inch board, because it's a 1x. And so the trim profiles have been corrupted for a century and a half now. But if we can actually get them to make the polymer trim, we can actually get it right for the first time in that long. And so that would be a really, really good thing. And of course, all this with stuff that doesn't rot. So, and actually the Vinyl Siding Institute is sponsoring now an initiative with the manufacturers to make exactly that happen. So if they pull that off, then I would be one that would advocate for actually using the material if it becomes if it's indiscernible from wood at arm's length. Because you can walk up and actually touch it, it would feel like it, it would act like it, the whole thing. Anyhow, that's my pitch. Eric? Sure.
I have been, I'll start this way. I transitioned my business 25 years ago to concentrate solely on traditional building and traditional design and urban projects. And in getting involved with recreating and studying and using as the precedent the great traditional historic buildings that were around me in South Carolina, and trying to engage those building practices was wonderful. Design was great. Our biggest problem was that much of the materials that we had available for us to use would simply rot off the building in 6 months. And that wasn't working for us. I'm a big fan of real materials throughout a building. However, at that point in time, we started looking for alternatives. And that's when we found the cementitious. And then some trim, some composite trims that just did not hold muster. But we also discovered actually PVC window first that had just an absolutely beautiful traditional profile. It was solid and paintable. We started using that, and then as time went on, more of the PVC trim profiles were coming out that held together, particularly in our environment. We have mold and mildew issues, and the ability to last was actually quite a lot longer than the natural materials available without known hardwoods. So we've adopted them and have had many years of working with those particular products, and they've lasted very well. Our criteria for synthetic materials has always been that they be solid, that they be repairable, and that they be paintable. Those are the big deals for us, right? And the thing that is lacking from the vinyl industry. You know, if something goes bad, you replace the entire wall, and the color doesn't match. And, you know, so those are those issues that we really worked hard in trying to find materials that would emulate well wood once painted. So that's the short version.
Yeah, I've had the experience in my work, generally coming from the perspective of authenticity. Of, if it's a product that can look and feel as much like the original as possible, then it can kind of be signed off. I've done a lot of work in Colorado, and you get the elements that kind of high up in the mountains because of stronger UV rays, and so for instance, aluminum clad windows were just all the local builders and little suppliers were like, don't even think about using wood windows here. You're going to have to use aluminum clad windows, and so finding ways to pick the window manufacturer that tries hard enough to get that authentic detail that actually looks like a wood window. And with fiber cement and with vinyl, that potential. To me, there's been a thing in the industry, sort of the classic, similar to other aspects in the world, New Urbanism, all identified sort of the horse blinder factor that somebody's working on one specific aspect of the problem without looking at the big picture. And so the engineers might figure out, they got this product that the engineer has the engineering solution, but they haven't necessarily thought about the aesthetic solution simultaneously. The windows are a perfect example that they've got all these engineering solutions, but then it's got all these like weird little extra lines and seams and joints, and it works great engineering wise, but it doesn't work aesthetically wise. So having the bigger picture view. So similarly, and one of the most ironic elements of one of the most ironic elements to me of the authenticity question is when people are trying to the synthetic wood grain effect, which is kind of an industry-wide. The manufacturers are actually trying so hard to make it look like wood that, in my opinion, if they've gone beyond the point of it looking like wood, it actually looks like wood that's been sitting out and rotting and paint's flaking off. It's actually starting to show its grain. So ultimately, it's an ironic thing that in the name of authenticity, you go out of your way to specify smooth fiber cement or maybe smooth vinyl product. And there's all these fiberglass doors there that go so far out of the way to actually make it have wood grain. To me, it actually doesn't even look like wood anymore. Normal wood is smooth and painted. But yeah, I have to say that the vinyl industry and the fiber cement industry, that ability to focus on the authenticity and actually make the product look and feel as much like the original, then there's great potential to use it and have it sort of be a believable product.
All right, well, this hasn't been very controversial yet. So the first question I have is, have y'all adopted at some point or tried a material where you thought it had hope or promise and it didn't work out? Because that's one of the things that, in developments, we always talked about is, oh, well, it's a new product. You get the salesman in there and he says, this is the best thing ever, and it's been tried it's about 80-year-old technology from Zimbabwe, and it's really going to work here, we know, and then it doesn't work out. Have you had that experience at all on anything?
Oh yeah, I'm sure we all have.
What are the examples?
Examples. One of the tests that we do with any new material is actually get a bucket of water and throw it in it for 3 months and see what happens. That's test number one. In the early days, again, I was talking about the exterior trim a little bit, and there were some paper-faced trims and some other composites that just, we tested, and they just didn't hold up. And fortunately, you discover those pretty quickly in most instances.
So what do you use there?
We use the AZAC, we use the cellular PVC trim, and Hardy trim as well, because they've gone a long way in refining their edges so that you can actually mill them, miter them and the like, where originally you really couldn't do that. So both of those two were the primary sources, plus woods.
Did you have something?
I got one good example. We tried for years to find a good alternative to like a wood porch flooring. And, there were these products that were marketed as a great, all synthetic porch flooring that tried to mimic wood. And then in the fine print, it's like it can't be exposed to sunlight. It's like, oh well, that's gonna be a problem. So I guess that one's off the list. And it's kind of a constant search. And then again, we run up against the problem where they tried so hard. It's got all this fakey wood grain on there, but it's not the real thing. And so I generally defaulted to if it's smooth and it's just sort of like a mono color and it looks maybe closer to like a painted wood flooring, and we could begin to accept it. And then I think the sort of another Steve Mouzon is and felt the diaper board, the good fiber, or maybe a fiberglass or some kind of composite. They make the children's playgrounds out of that material. It doesn't look like wood. It looks like recycled diapers or something.
So Kenny, what do you use now for outdoor porch if it's not?
Well, actually, hot off the press, I just had kind of been finding out about a new product that's actually a bamboo material with like resins and so it's like the bamboo's got the sustainability factor. It's essentially a grass that's renewable, and then with the sort of resin composite tongue and groove, it looks like Ipe. It costs less than Ipe, and it's termite resistant. And, actually a beautiful product. It's kind of fascinating with the old traditionally bamboo. You see all the little joints in the bamboo, but now it's like they've melted it all down to a mesh and combined it with resins, and it looks like Ipe wood and solid as a rock. So.
All right. How about you, Steve?
Yeah.
What's failed in your world?
Well, the worst one for me was one that was the darling new material of the year I graduated from architecture school, and that was a synthetic stucco on foam, otherwise known as drive-it, and one of the stupidest details in the history of human construction. And actually, I did it myself because the manufacturers put that out as an approved detail early on, but is to run the drive-it right down into the ground. When you do, not only can moisture wake up and get into the framing and rot the framing, but also termites can come up totally undetected until they've literally eaten the building down. I mean, there's been buildings that literally had to be bulldozed because the termites getting behind the drive-it, you never did see it. So anyhow, there's a very few places where it can be used, but that's one of the materials I'll never do again. Another thing I'll never do again is put any kind of a stucco on frame construction, because stucco doesn't move at the same rate as frame. It basically, if you follow the manufacturer's directions now, you have to have, they're just eaten up with control joints. I mean, control joints everywhere. And so I will never again use stucco except on a masonry structure.
All right, the next question I wanted to ask you is, you're known, for those who don't know, Steve Mouzon is one of the most prolific, if not the most prolific, town architect who reviews architecture in traditional neighborhood developments across the country. And every time I've been with them, typically the clients will refer to Steve as the purist. Like they think Steve has just got these insanely high standards, and yet you're talking about using these fake materials, and you've always said, if you fake it well, it works. If you don't fake it well, then we're going to have to say no. So my question really isn't to y'all so much as is the audience. Does anybody have a problem with the Steve rule of if you fake it well? I mean, so there's not a controversy here, is there?
Well, first of all, the word fake it. I'm using materials that are materials and I'm not faking anything, I'm building something. The goal that you guys are all talking about is not trying to make it look like something that it's not.
Right.
So if I'm making something out, I'm following nice details, the fact that it's made out of AZAC instead of pine that's gonna rot in 6 months, I have no problem with that. I did a project in 1987, which is just about when the new forested lumber pine was coming in. And within 5 years, I had to replace all the siding in the trim of the building. Very painful for the development. So AZAC and hardy plank and these things as good, nice looking materials, I think it's good.
Paul?
I totally agree. I mean, especially a lot of classical details are really about shapes.
Yeah.
And originally stone was sort of trying to look like wood, it would last longer, Greek temples. And there are lots of examples of stucco buildings that were essentially trying to look like stone, that still look great by themselves, and they just last quite as long. So if you can do the shapes right and they last, then I just think that you can use any material you want.
Okay.
Shadows.
Yeah.
Howard and Blackson the third, do you want to share something?
Well, I was just saying, if you get rid of the word fake it, if you do it well, even if it's a modern building, because you know how hard it is to do anything well, and if you do it well, you're winning.
Well,
Right, Steve?
yeah, actually, you know,
Even if it's a modern building.
every building I've ever done is a modern building. It's
There you
built,
go.
it's built now, it's not built in the past,
Yeah.
you know? It's not a historic building, it was built last year or whatever, you know? But when I say fake it, I mean a material that's intending to represent something else. You know, it's the exact profile of wood siding, for example, or something like that. And you know, because there's actually very few construction materials today that actually are what they intend to represent. You might say brick is, but no, it's brick veneer. You know, if you built a full brick wall, it would actually perform very differently. That's why, like for example, when there is a brick veneer, if you fake it well, what that means is that for example, the lintel has to be a completely self-supporting thing that supports the wall above it, just like it would be if the lintel was a foot deep rather than being 4 inches deep. You know, so that's what I mean by that. Yes, sir.
I think one of the key components, Kenny, I've ran into this myself, when new materials come out and it looks good, it looks solid, it simulates what you want. Well, we did this project where we used synthetic slate, this fake slate that was made out of a cementous material, and in 5 years it turned pink. It went from gray to pink and it was horrible.
For no extra cost.
My point is there's an age question. You know, it can look good, it can synthetic well, but you also have to ask how is it going to age?
Yeah.
And I think that question is a key one to be careful about.
We had a question over here.
Yeah, have any of these companies, do they have the ability to do custom profiles in certain quantities? Or?
They do, actually, they have for years. It's one of the things I've liked both about Hardy, James Hardy, as well as a lot of the cellular PVC. Cellular PVC is so easy because they can make any mold you want. So we were doing that years ago, and they've been very receptive. But some of the profiles, for instance, bed molds as opposed to only a terminating crown was something that was really missing with some cellular PVC companies. AZAC actually started to create one. And Steve is working hard right now doing a full set of profiles with one company or with an industry. So they're very, very good. And custom work is quite good. Hardy, much larger ship, right? It's hard to turn that ship, but they did come out with the Artisan series of siding, which is a much deeper profile. Shadow lines are much better. A little more expensive, but not so bad. So it's ever improving.
Yeah, I'll just say one thing, and that is that in the work that I've been doing recently, what I've discovered is that at the very least, making a new die is a $40,000 deal. At the most, it might, to come up with a new profile of certain things, it might be a $500,000 deal. So they do need to have some confidence that they can sell enough of it, before they do that. It's not like just cutting a $100 knife, you know.
Hold on, Matt. I want to ask another question. What have they not come out with that you've been begging for, in the material world? What have you really wanted to see that they haven't come out with yet that will be this durable material? You got some ideas?
Well, it's actually some of the stuff I'm working on right now.
Okay, so we should
It's in.
tell them.
Well, it's the siding, obviously, and then a full set of trim profiles of the stuff that we use all the time, that we can't get. You know, you can't get a decent bed mold. People will say, well, you know, it's a 3-week lead time thing, and of course they don't want that because nobody's stocking it, and so the you know, so that's a classic example. We're looking to actually come up with a really good vinyl window that actually matches perfectly the windows in the 1920s. Potentially handrails, potentially fencing. Right now they're hideous because all the connectors that they have at the ends makes it real obvious that it's not the real thing. But there's no reason at all that can't be manufactured. It's just a question of having that done.
You want to add something, Paul?
Yeah, I think that windows are one of the toughest things to get right, especially if you're doing a bigger building and you have to worry about hurricanes, or if you're doing a tall building and you have to worry about very high winds. And one of the toughest things we have to deal with in our office, we do a whole range of different kinds of buildings, is getting window profiles that are thin enough. They're often, we work in Hong Kong where they have typhoons, and you do a house there and you have the refrigerator doors, the windows. And it would be so great to have somebody work on doing thinner profiles, and maybe there's steel and other ways to do it to meet the requirements of really high standards of high wind pressure and thinner. And the other thing is that many times you have to have double or triple pane glass, and you get all these horrible reflections, especially at night. Just sort of have somebody work on minimizing those reflections, so you have 3 triple versions of yourself, and maybe see out and see the city instead. Would be great.
Let's do this. We're a couple minutes over our allotted time, and let's do the other presentations, and then we'll come back and we can have a conversation at the end in the time that's left.
All right, questions. First of all, we got questions. Anybody want to ask anybody anything? Jeff.
I want to get back to the material question. It seems to be the most talked about here so far. It's extremely disjointed, but the materials, I'm kind of struggling with the idea that these newer materials haven't yet achieved a craft that you might see in Barcelona with brick. That the PVC materials and the hardy plank materials seem to be mimicking older materials. We sort of fake it till we make it, but we haven't evolved that to transforming its own and creating its own language of architecture. And I wonder if you had any comments or thoughts about that.
Actually, we had a 2-pronged proposal originally with the power industry, and that was to do the one part, which is what we're working on now, which is mimicking wood, and then the other part was to say, well, you know, if these were polymers that were just proud to be polymers, what would they do? They could do some pretty cool things, and as of right now, that part is on the back burner. I think they want to see what happens with the part that we're working on first, and then. But I have hopes that we can actually come back around to that, you know, and because it's really some cool possibilities there.
I guess what I'm wondering is, can we engage with the craftsman like we do with wood and brick, and evolve that with the actual craftsman in the field?
Well, I mean, one thing I was going to say earlier, you know, Steve, I think you can talk to better than I, is the AZAC is a very moldable material. I know it's very expensive to have them extrude different things, but I can put AZAC together, run it through a shaper, and get what I want it to be.
So it's solid.
Yeah.
But what you're talking about is a completely different entity, which is essentially a custom manufacturer that's a small scale shop that's going to be doing stuff that AZAC's not going to do because of their scale.
I'm talking about the connection between us designers and the people installing and working with the craftsmanship of it. Which
Oh, the people
was so
installing,
relevant.
not manufacturing.
Right, not the manufacturer, but how does
The guy at the
craftsman,
the guy at the job site who's got his tools and he wants to do something nice.
which is so relevant in some of those presentations on Barcelona yesterday.
Well, the material question is interesting because one of the things that's happening in New York is you see firms like Shop that are using what they're calling living materials, so they're cladding whole buildings in copper or things that are rusting, instead of trying to make a modern building with this perfect panel that's gonna look really bad in 10 years because it gets the water stain. So it'll be interesting to see how those buildings evolve. I think the real impact of groups like the CNU is that firms like SHOP are building they're building contemporary buildings, but they have great urbanism. They have the storefronts and things like that. And so it's a good point that, yeah, with these materials, we should be creative and think about, how to,
Are we seeing, well, just to follow up on this question real quick before we get to the next one, are we seeing any small-scale manufacturers arising trying to do this custom work, or is there just not enough of it for them to make it go?
There are small firms that will make custom shapes for you quite quickly. One of the issues, however, with the PVCs is that they're non-structural, right? So there are limitations as to how you can use them. So would it be great if we could, for instance, craft some brackets that work, that can support weight, and that would be a wonderful way to actually use this material because it is so easy to.
I'm using a Dura bracket, which is a PVC material that is actually fire rated. So when you're up against the property line, for instance, you have to have a fire rated condition there, and that's an advantage over the wood.
Okay, we had a question in the back, and then we'll go to Andrew. You had a question.
Well, I just wanted to touch on the fact, I think what Paul presented is an interesting extension of this argument of materials. Because when you look at what, say for example, McKinney and White were doing with the classical language in the turn of the century, they were taking that language and experimenting and creating and stretching it and doing all kinds of creative interventions within that framework. And I think the same for the materials. I think it's up to us as designers in a way to take the material and to say, what can we do with this? How can we make this particular language or this particular material speak in a creative way? So I think we're right to be questioning this, but we also need to be, in essence, putting ourselves out there to lead it well, lead it with good examples of how to do it.
And so, to continue your point, I don't know if you remember when Formica was also an advocate, where something was Formica, but, and they brought out a new product called Solid Core, and with that, they invited a whole bunch of architects and artists, Frank Gehry just shattered the stuff and made a fish out of it. But other guys were pretty creative. And so for the ones that are using specifically, see if you're working on them, perhaps instead of them trying to convince people of what they think they can do, have them hold a competition such that Formica really reinvented itself. And here's the words on how well they did right after doing that, where they threw it up to people. Look, here's what we can do. What can you do with our product?
Well, actually, that prong of the initiative, this kind of back burner right now, it is planned to involve a competition between architects of exactly what you just said. And Andres would be heading that one up.
Okay.
I think that's a really interesting question you raised, Jeff, about workmen, sort of people on job site and what can you do to work with them to get them to sort of get involved. And I think that construction has become so mechanized in the United States that workmen are just given up, and they do not even pay attention. And they've lost all sense of pride in the work.
Yes.
Actually, so you have to sort of change that. And it's interesting because I think it's not true all over the world. In Japan, we've done projects in Japan where it's amazing where every person on the job site, no matter what they're doing, they're actually thinking about what they're doing, and they are just as likely to pick up that something is off center as an architect. It's amazing. They're all thinking about it. And if you can get people doing brickwork or something, be thinking that much about what they're doing, you could sort of hand some of it over to them like architects do, before World War II all the time. You wouldn't have to do very few details because workmen do so much about how to fill in all the blanks. And somehow, it's a shame that we've lost all that, but I don't know how much it is. Somebody has to sort of get work group back into sort of a guild idea and get them to regain their pride in it.
Dan, your assignment for next year is get Patrick Webb to come to Savannah.
Well, I mean, he every to each his own faith. We have a lot of. I try to get him. He's a purist when it comes to all materials, and he's a Ruskinian in the corruption of, all this and all that. Part of what I was thinking was, what do we get, how are we supposed to engage the work, like where I work, they're all Latins, they're all doing their work, they got, and I talk to them in Spanish and this and that, but basically they have to do my drawing, because they haven't, there's, if you look at the old architectural books before World War II, you look at the major stories, beautiful buildings in McKinney White, then you look at the ads, they all look like bastardized versions of McKinney White. You look at periodicals today, you look at this architecture, you look at the ads, it's bad traditionalism. So it's not filtering down and getting into the little pattern books that workers might get excited. I do say, look, what do you think? I always ask them, what do you think? Oh, I don't think. It's 5 minutes later, I think this, So there's this usual nonsense between the architect and the builder. And I think it would help if we educated architects to understand that they're really builders with some stuff on top. And a builder is really an architect who's just more in the field. The more you get those two things back and together, I think the better overall for everybody.
Yeah.
But that's why I was asking about the manufacturing side, because I've heard many architects talk about, there's no small window companies. We used to have a local window manufacturer, and they're gone now that they have all these rating requirements on the windows. And so I was thinking, okay, well, how do you foster the creation of that again with, in the other materials, let's say non-window?
That's too hard.
There is
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
There are companies like precast stone or precast concrete companies that you can make profiles locally and work with the local precast company to work and dent with
They'll
your
make
design.
anything we draw. Anything we draw, I get a precast company.
But you have to sit down with them because they got tolerances and lengths issues.
We need to know what we're gonna do.
Kenny, you're going to have the last word.
I'll just say one thing that I think about a lot is in context of the synthetic material or whatever it might be. To me, if you look at it in a vacuum, you can make a nice looking vinyl window, but if that vinyl window is just like stuck on the wall, like flush out in the face and has no casing, and like they got the vinyl windows with like the sash is essentially also the brick mold. It's just not even detailed like a window anymore. It's just a cartoon of a window. That, in and of itself, like if you took that exact same window and you tucked it back, get some casing on it, it might actually all look good, but in and of itself, it could be used badly or it could be used in a good way. So to me, a lot of this is hard to look at in a vacuum. It's sort of like a lot of bigger picture design question of how it all goes together, and quality of construction and detailing and design.
I have one little room.
All right, Patty, to press us all before we leave.
I think we all need to take a real careful look at the 2015 IBC. Most of the building departments haven't started using it until recently, and it is really, really scary. For example, I can't build a wood frame structure without applying a layer of polystyrene on the outside to do a thermal break to my wood, to my siding. It completely pushes the idea of ring walls, and it makes doing something like putting siding on my house a whole more challenging thing.
You just made me happy I'm not an architect. Okay, well, thanks to all the architects. Keep up the hard work. Make our world more beautiful. Thank you.